Good afternoon. Welcome to the July 20th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order and asking if there's any added items to the agenda. From council, any added items? From administration? No? Oh, wait, do you have an added item? No. Okay. Okay. So a motion to approve the agenda as circulated.
I approve the agenda for the July 20th P&P meeting as circulated.
Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to the adoption of the minutes. Echoey.
It is.
So I would accept a motion to adopt the minutes of the June 15th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting. Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes from the June 15, 2015 Committee of Council Policies and Priorities meeting as presented for approval.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions to those minutes? All in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Business arising from the minutes? Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none, we will move on to new business. Item 6A, a delegation from Oldstoberfest. And I'd ask, I believe it's Mr. Wangstuff, making introductions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to welcome Lorraine Big and Jillian Shields from Range Road Events, which is the group that is putting on the Oldstoberfest rodeo. And they're going to review a few things before we have a discussion on any sponsorship, if anything, from council to this event. So I'd like to welcome these two ladies to council chambers, please. And just as a note regarding the sound system, it quit at MPC. So we had someone come in and get it running again. So it sounds like it might need a little bit of adjusting, but we may need to just make do with what we have today.
So welcome, ladies, to our P&P meeting. We invite you to use the microphone. Thank you.
First and foremost, we would like to thank you, Madam Councillor, and all of Council for welcoming Range Road Events here today to speak about Oldstoberfest, which is a very, very exciting event coming to Olds, not too far away. So, without further ado, I'm Jillian Shields, General Manager of Oldstoberfest.
Hello there, and my name's Lorraine Big, so I take care of sponsorship and marketing and just assisting Jillian. So.
So Oldstoberfest will be September 18th to 20th, 2015. We are the world's first Bavarian rodeo. How the whole idea of Oldstoberfest came about was the Olds College obviously has a brewmaster program, a national meat program, and a hospitality program. And with that, the whole Oldstoberfest, and I'm sure quite a few of you were at the very first one. So we really wanted to kind of take that Oktoberfest theme and expand it into an event. With another event that we run, Pomeroy Guitars and Wagons, we really noticed that, especially in Alberta, a Western-themed event also worked great and able to expand the event. So we host in Grand Prairie the Western Chuck Wagon Association. And so for us, my background being more so rodeo, we decided to go along with bringing a professional rodeo back to Olds, which has not been here since the year 2009. So our rodeo will be Bavarian themed. It is professionally sanctioned, not only on the Pro Rodeo Canada Tour, but as well as the PRCA Tour in North America. Is this?
Go ahead, you keep talking, I'll just adjust.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
you keep talking.
Okay.
Mr. Wangstaff will adjust.
So along with the Bavarian Rodeo, we will also have a Bavarian Beer Garden, which will be the Old Cow Palace. as well as just a Bavarian-themed grandstand show as well. We will have some headliners that will be coming to Olds, announced July 30th on the stage of Big Valley Jamboree. So really exciting for us. The fellow producing our rodeo is named Rory Lamel. He produced rodeos such as Houston, San Antonio, works on Las Vegas, NFR, and as well as the Shoot Balls for Cheyenne Frontier Days. He has never worked on a rodeo in Canada, and he's going to be doing our rodeo. So very, very exciting for Olds. With my experience, one thing that we are lacking in rodeo in Canada is a production value. And we really want to bring that with our rodeo in Olds. So it's not going to be just any other rodeo. And another thing too is we definitely would like to leverage our unique Bavarian theme. And so you're in Olds, Alberta, but maybe you feel like you're somewhere else in the world. We want to be able to maybe feel like you are, in Germany. We want everybody to be kind of in Lederhosen. We want to just have that big event where everybody is kind of having an experience that you've never ever felt before. So that's one of our objectives. And then our other objective for this year is to just be able to maximize that potential reach in our targeted markets. So that is rodeo fans throughout North America, Central Alberta. We are having Patterson billboards from kind of Red Deer area to Calgary. We're also on radio from Red Deer to Drumheller, as well as Olds here and Calgary as well. We've also recently partnered up with Travel Alberta, and one of their things that they would love us to do, and what we are ensuring we are doing, is also maximizing our online reach and making sure that we have a very strong campaign along with that. So some of the relationships that we really, and we have already somewhat been doing, working forwards to the event, is creating relationships. Local charities and not-for-profit groups, we would like to get everybody to make sure that they can also reap the benefit of an event of this caliber coming to Olds. Corporate and local sponsorships as well. In order to make sure the event is successful, we do need to see some sponsorship come in to make sure that we can have the event continue. Community members as well. This is an opportunity for communities to gather together and volunteer for an event and just embrace an event and to bring the community together. Pro Rodeo Canada and Pro Rodeo Cowboys Association, as I said before, we are sanctioned for both of those. We also recently established a relationship with the Red Deer Oil and Gas Expo, and we are actually offering VIP experiences for some of the vendors there, that if they would like, after the Oil and Gas Expo is done for the day, they hop in a limo and they head over to Olds. So another opportunity to showcase Olds. And as I just also mentioned, Travel Alberta is very, very interested in what we are doing. They see this as a very, very interesting thing for them, as Germany is our biggest tourist market. And between August and October, that is when we see over 300,000 German tourists come to Alberta. So very, very exciting thing for Olds, because we kind of have that German theme. So local charity opportunities, as I said before, that's something that we really, really want to be able to push. 50-50 proceeds will be opened up for any charities within the region, within Olds, that is interested. I know I've been working with a few members in the community that are interested, different groups, different charities that would like to get involved. We're also allowing different groups, if they'd like to do raffles at our event for their charities as well. Labor for donation, so for example, Olds Minor Hockey, I know Olds Search and Rescue is going to be doing our security, so to be able to give donations in return for some kind of labor for our event as well. We're also hoping to give back scholarships to the Olds College for helping out as well. They are in cooperation with us as well, and we are going to be leveraging them with some of their student power. So this year we're expecting between 8,000 to 12,000 visitors in our first year alone. We're hoping to bring in some tourist and local dollars, and as well ticket sales, fundraisers, and employment opportunities are what we're kind of hoping to bring to the Olds community. Just some comparisons for you to kind of look at The City of Leduc in 2014, their economic impact for their professional rodeo alone was approximately $1.2 million. Now, if you can picture the Didsbury Memorial Complex, the rodeo in Leduc is about that size. They don't have any concerts. They don't have, all there is the rodeo. So to bring $1.2 million in 3 days is pretty astounding. A lot of that is just from contestants and some of the fans coming in alone. Big Valley Jamboree brings approximately $8 million to the town of Camrose during the August long weekend. Obviously, they've been doing it for a few years. We intend on making Oldstoberfest an annual event on the third weekend of September, with attendee numbers increasing every year. And with further ado, Lorraine Veek, she is also the general manager for Guitars and Wagons Weekend, and I'd love her to be able to share her experiences of running the festival there.
Hello there. So as Julie mentioned, I am the event organizer for Palmer Guitars and Wagons. The event started, this was our 4th year, we had it June 18th to 21st. It was up in Grand Prairie. The event started 4 years ago. It was actually began with the Western Truck Wagon Association. They used to run the opening weekend at Grand Prairie Stampede, and then they didn't run again for 6 weeks. And so the first year, they were the ones that kind of started the event. It was just a really small, we had small beer gardens with a few local kind of honky-tonk fans and such. Within 4 years, we've grown the event into, it's $1.5 million event. We now do 3 nights of concerts with major headliners, and it kind of began the same thing with Oldstoberfest, just, kind of a small idea, and just everyone in the community jumped on board. We'd also partnered with Travel Alberta, and, that's one of the biggest things, is just raising awareness about the event, and so much of it too, there's so many events that happen within Edmonton and Calgary and some of the larger cities, but sometimes the funding and such doesn't reach to some of the smaller areas and such, so to have Travel Alberta on board with us is huge for the event. We basically, so with the event, as Jillian was mentioning, the biggest thing with it is sponsorship dollars. We have partnered with a lot of organizations already, and every person that we speak with, there's a lot of hype about the event, a lot of positive feedback, and everyone's just really excited to get on board. So what we are here today asking of you, we actually had a meeting last week in regards to the RCMP and the policing services for the event. We are hoping, or asking, for the town of Olds, we're looking for a $6,000 sponsorship. We're hoping to do partial gift in kind to cover the cost of the policing services, and then the remaining amount in cash for the event. One of the biggest things with the sponsorship, you get about 65–70% of the sponsorship back in tickets for the event. And, so we have a lot of companies that use it for staff incentives, customer appreciation, even to possibly give back to, members of the community that you work with and such. As well, there's huge advertising opportunities, huge advertising opportunities. We are just in the process of getting all of the Pattison billboards, radio ads. The entire marketing campaign is going to be kicking off within the next couple of weeks. So that's something, if you were jumping on board, you can definitely get you involved with a lot of the advertising and such.
So we just once again like to thank you all for listening to us today. We're very, very excited, very, very enthusiastic about this event. I think, the first year building this from the ground up in February, it's been a little bit of a long road, but it's been absolutely amazing just to be able to get to know the committee and the community, and to be able to collaborate with everyone and get everybody together to be able to work on this event as well. We're also going to be branching under the Oldstoberfest weekend, the Communities in Bloom Harvest Festival, as well as Olds College is going to be hosting an open house as well. So this is an opportunity for, the Olds community to have an event like this, to be able to bring, local charity money in, maximize economic impact, and as well just an opportunity for the community to get together and unite. So once again, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Julian and Lorraine. And I know that there's lots of questions around the table, and I believe Mayor Dahl had her hand up first.
Thank you for the presentation. It's good information, Mr. Wagstaff. I see you have your hand up. Do you want to?
No, go ahead, I was just trying to get, my apologies, I was just trying to get a hold of the chair so I can also get on the list.
Perhaps we should hear from you first, and then we can work around your comments. I'm sure you spoke with your administration.
Well, I had a question as well, just for clarification, because I am meeting with the staff sergeant tomorrow, just to understand what sort of cost of policing, in addition to regular policing, is going to be surrounding this event. Regarding the ask that the council will consider in the future here, you said $6,000. Was that $6,000 on a cash donation plus the policing, or was that a $6,000 in kind towards policing?
It would be a total $6,000 sponsorship. So it would be partial gift in kind to cover the cost of the policing, and then the difference would be made up in cash for the event.
Mr. Wagstaff, do you have further questions before we move on?
No further questions, just an interesting note for deliberations. In looking at research with our heritage advisor on another issue, just was interesting to come up. She was working on a piece for Heritage Days, which are in provincial Heritage Days, which are in August. And interestingly enough, the largest mother tongue of a second non-official language in the town of Olds is German. I was surprised. I would have thought of a few other languages, but German is 22% of German as a first language is 22% of our population in town of non-official languages. Just as a note, I will share with the others so you can get that out of your mind thought, is Filipino is second largest, then Ukrainian, then Dutch, then Afrikaner, and then Siamese, which is Sri Lankan.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great stats. We didn't have many French. Interesting.
That's a non-official language,
Oh, I see.
second language, yes.
I hear you. Thank you. Okay, that's good information sharing. It did tie in with one of my questions with regards to enhanced policing, because we do have to pay for that. I'm going to just throw this out there. I personally, with my years of service here, would like to discuss the volunteer sponsorship, because we work with volunteers and we honor our volunteers. I'm not sure if our council at this time, we have not budgeted for this, is what I'm saying. It's a $6,000 ask that is not in our budget. We also have, at the same time happening, is the Olds Rotary Gala. We have many events in the town that we need to use the resident purse for. So I would like to hear from my council. I am looking at volunteer hospitality. I can understand that emergency services is another area the town of Olds would like to look at. And my mind is only going to a $3,000 max right now, because I know the other sponsorship we have to do, and I know that this was not in the budget that we prepared, as well as our council will be now looking at going on a education retreat with our administration on behalf of the citizens, so we can make sure that we keep everything in order for them, and I'll just leave the rest to my colleagues.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Any questions, comments? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, and appreciate the presentation. It was great, and I look forward to it. But as the mayor said, this is something that's not budgeted for, and our budget usually runs November. So we will have to have discussion about this before we make any decision. But thank you very much.
Any further questions? Comments? Okay. So, as you have heard from us, is the fact that we will be making deliberations. Mayor Dahl?
Certainly, I can put a motion out here. I also would like to ask one more question. I would like to ask if it is your expectation, you might not be able to answer this, that this would become an annual expectation or through your organization?
I definitely think that we would like to see the chamber or the council on board. That could be negotiated each and every year. I think for this year, we're definitely at least looking for the policing to be covered for us. That's huge for us. And at this point, this year, we're definitely just looking at getting the event to be able to kick it off and just ensure that it is a success. As you said, like, we came in a little bit later, so it was kind of, we've already interfered with a few people's budgets.
Okay. So in due respect, all due respect to your organization, if in fact you are looking for future, for this to be an annual event, it would be good if you could advise our CAO or administration prior to our budget process that basically starts, I'm going to say, September, October, November.
Absolutely.
And yes, this will attract a good number of people to the town, and we're excited about that for our businesses and for the citizens to partake in for sure. However, we do have to be studious with the purse. So I would I will put a motion on the floor that council direct administration to revisit the request for enhanced policing and further discuss with council. At which time we can make a decision. But thank you very much for your time.
So we have a motion. Thank you very much. So we do have a motion for directing administration to provide information in reference to the policing costs for this event and report back to council. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. So moving on to our second delegation, recognition opportunities. I see Mr. Qualley is in the gallery today, and I believe Mr. Wagstaff, this is coming from your department as well.
Yes, it is, Madam Chair. Just before I get to introducing our delegation guest today, just wanted to comment what's brought before you today, because with P&P, it's a good opportunity to have some discussion to kind of give us an understanding as to where in the priority, what kind of resources can go into certain projects, and it has been raised that there is recognition within our community for humanitarian award, Citizen of the Year, Youth Citizen of the Year, and what sort of recognition can we do, should we do, is it appropriate for the town or within the community, what kind of recognition for those people who tend to be younger, early in their careers, but have achieved a significant milestone of provincial or national, even international recognition, in their endeavor. In particular, it's come up around sport, and how can we recognize those young people who are no longer what we consider to be youth, but they're young adults who have achieved a significant in their aspiration of their, in this case, sport, have done well, and they call Olds home, and they may or may not end up being long-time Olds residents. They may or may not return to Olds, but Olds was their home. And how can we recognize those individuals and honor what they've done and celebrate what they've done, and not necessarily wait for a lifetime of that type of an achievement. But so that what seed that with council and have some discussion. And I know we have a resident, Mr. Al Qualley, who would also like to speak to this in the terms of what he would envision. So if I can introduce Mr. Qualley, if you come forward, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, Madam Chairman, councilors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Al Qualley, and I'm here to make a bit of a proposal. I had seen this before, but I apologize if I'm out of sync with the general intent here, but I think we can maybe fill in. I'm not sure, Your Honor, I talked briefly with yourself and with Doug, whether the intent was to have this discussion in camera, or we'll give any more thought about that.
Well, in camera is left for labor, legal, and land. And this particular instance doesn't fit any of those to be in camera. So it'd be something that would require some debate in public. However, if we don't get into specific individuals and talk about general principles of what your idea was, it would still honor your desire to have it, not talk about a specific individual in the public realm. So we could talk about the principles of what we want to have happen.
Yeah. Your worship has a question or a comment?
I certainly do. I have a comment, and with all due respect, yes, I understand where you're coming from. I do have some comments that one of my colleagues, Councillor Rudy Dury, is away. However, he did have some comments that he did want me to share. They are particular to names. I certainly will do that on his behalf, just to give council an idea of his way of thinking. Go ahead.
So if we're talking about personnel, are we talking about personnel or names?
No, we're talking about community.
Community? Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So, Mr. Wagstone.
If we were, to, honor and, perpetuate names and the deeds of individuals or teams that have, athletic abilities that brought fame to themselves and to our community. And where their dedication and their work in sport has resulted in a climate which benefits others in our community from their achievements. That's the frame that I was bringing to council today, to go, there is a void there. We know Rotary looks after humanitarian of the year. They look after a youth citizen of the year, and they've chosen to recognize a citizen of the year. There is a category of individuals from our community that grow up and call Olds home, to achieve significant, they've aspired to a significant level in their sporting career, and whether or not there's a place for our community to recognize that and celebrate that. That's the discussion before council today. And as we get into that, there are several examples across the country where municipalities or community groups within municipalities have done so. So to have the debate, to find out in the discussion, not really a debate, about the merits of that and how or if the town of Olds would lead that kind of recognition.
I think if you agree with us, Mr. Qualley, this is information for you to provide us with some ideas. Perhaps you could continue on then, if you're able to.
Madam Chair, with all due respect to Mr. Qualley, his information that he provided us was in confidence. We have not shared that with council to date, so it is entirely up to you on how you want to present this.
Thank you very much. I'll try, and feel free to stop me or advise me to move in a different direction. It's a pleasure to be in the company of many who I know. I wasn't sure what the composition of council was, but it's good to see some familiar places that I know from the community. Well, first, let me share a little bit of background about myself and our family in this community. I like to think that I'm a product of your community. I moved to Olds in 1964, which is just over 50 years ago, and most of the time I spent as an instructor, coach, athletic director, administrator at Olds College, and the last part of my career I was a partner in a prize leadership in Olds. During the 30 years as coach and supervisor of athletics and participant. I played a lot of fastball in this community. I played a lot of sports, baseball, and coached in the community. I coached minor hockey for close to 10 years. I coached minor basketball for young girls. I coached, I didn't really coach much in golf, but I coached a lot of sports in the community as well as at the college. I also served as chair of the Oldstoberfest District Recreation Board way back. And Mary Jane, you may remember those times. And I was the chair of the local sport development committee, where we distributed about $100,000 every quarter to Zone 2 athletes, as I was the representative of the Alberta Sport Council. I chaired the Alberta Summer Games Sports Committee that we hosted in 1983. Together with Bob Hill, we started the Mountain View Hockey School, which we subsequently turned over to the Olds Grizzlies, because we didn't have a hockey school at that time. So, as I say, I've witnessed and participated in a lot of sports achievements in those 50 years. I still teach and coordinate or officiate golf as an official in Canada, the United States, and in Africa. With Wade, I even coordinate a Monday morning men's league, which I've done, I think, pretty much since Wade's been at the Olds golf course, and so that's been an ongoing thing every Monday. And so I guess I just continue to kind of roll along just a little slower. But, and our children also were very involved in sports in this community, and I thank you all for the programs and the opportunities that we had. And they all went on and played professional sports and all won Canadian championships. And our youngest daughter played golf on 6 continents. And so, too, with my wife, who played university curling, and I was chair of women's golf for Canada. And I say that just as a background, as someone who's talking in this area of sport recognition and leadership and the pursuit of excellence, because that's who I am. That's what I've been about my whole career. Today, I come to you to suggest that we recognize, and I'm thinking of an individual, and as Doug said, maybe it has to be put in the broader context. But I'm thinking of one of our native sons who has achieved the highest level in his sport that you can achieve, and that's playing in the NHL. And this individual was born and raised in Olds. We can argue and discuss about who's the greatest athlete, and I'm not saying that this person is the greatest athlete. I'm saying that he has achieved that gold medal, that level of achievement that all of us strive to achieve. The first and only player in the history of Olds to play on a one-way contract in the NHL, the highest level of hockey. As a hockey town, and I clearly recognize this as a hockey town, although my sports were not so much hockey, although I became a national level coach in this town. But it's a hockey town, and I think we're very proud of our hockey heritage, and we have, many players that we can all talk about that, achieved very high levels and played professionally in hockey, and the McDonald's, and the Jason Jeffries, the Kevin Holler, who was the greatest, the Bruce Hills, and Tarek Howards, who, Tarek Howard, I remember as a 3rd-round draft choice of the Chicago Blackhawks. Never made it to an NHL camp. They all strived. And I think our legacy as a progressive community, which we certainly are, involves recognizing excellence, achievement, and perseverance. Like I said, while not necessarily the best hockey player to play in Olds, his history is unique, and there will never be another. There will never be another first. We can argue and debate these others. But this is our native son. I don't know him very well. I didn't coach him. My wife taught him. My father sold cattle to his grandfather. He continues to live in Olds, and his family connections are deep in this community. We even recognize Ralph Klein, and I'm not sure if he attended school at Olds, or was he even an athlete in Olds. Maybe he was. But certainly, he had his own accomplishments, and has been suitably recognized. Now, this individual is probably not going into the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame. Incidentally, I was involved in the construction of that Alberta Sports Hall of Fame through the Alberta Sport Council, and we funded the building in Red Deer. And Hugh McPherson from Red Deer continues to be very involved in that project. But 30 years ago, it didn't even exist. This person didn't score the winning goal in the Stanley Cup final or the Olympics. However, he's still the only player from Olds to play in the NHL. And that Alberta Sports Hall of Fame building, we didn't have it then, but we have it now, and it's the outcome of a desire to recognize achievement by Albertans, by Alberta athletes. That's why we have it. We didn't have an Alberta Golf Hall of Fame. And I remember when, because I was involved with the Alberta Golf Association, and my wife, I think, was with them for 20 years, they developed this Alberta Golf Hall of Fame. And they had a criteria in there that said that you have to be 55 years of age or older to go into the hall. And so on, we went for a while, and I think eventually they said, you know, there's kind of something wrong with this policy, because our daughter, Corinne, I think, was inducted into that Hall of Fame when she was 35. Because they said, hey, everybody doesn't go on and play till they're, 60 years old or 50 or so on and so forth. Some are ladies and they go on and raise their children. Our daughter, Corinne, doesn't even play golf anymore. Matter of fact, she's more of a tennis player than she is a golfer, but her primary activity right now is raising her 2 children. But the point I make is that we shouldn't be restricted by policy. I don't know what your policy is. I don't know. But I just say we shouldn't be restricted by it. If it's time to change the policy, we have to make an exception. I was an administrator for many years at Olds College, and I always believed that let's not, pardon my language, bastardize policy. But for heaven's sakes, it's not written in stone. And if it makes sense to change it, then let's change it. I think looking away over there from the Olds Golf Course, Henry Christensen was suitably acknowledged at the Olds Golf Course 2 years ago, Wade, something like that. And that's very worthy, because he did a lot to get that golf course going out there, and a very, very nice man who took a leadership role. But gosh, it would have been nicer if we'd have recognized him while he was still with us. And we do that as a society, on and on. And, it's like our daughter Corinne. She's finished playing golf. They thought it was more suitable that they recognize her, while her peers know who she still is. And maybe the community knows who she still is. So policy shouldn't stand in the way of doing what's right. It's always easy to stay the status quo. It's always easy to not, to say, well, we have a policy that covers all of this, and so therefore we shouldn't do anything else. Look at the communities like Caroline that recognize Kurt Browning, or, and I'm not saying that we should be naming buildings or streets, or I don't want to be that presumptuous as to what we should do. But I think it behooves us to recognize excellence, recognize those who achieve the highest level. It's like getting a doctorate degree or a master's degree. It doesn't mean you're the smartest person in the world. It just means that you've achieved a certain level. I know many of you will agree and some of you won't, but I just humbly suggest we do something. Recognize someone we know and share this accomplishment as a community. And hopefully it will inspire others. Let's seize this opportunity. I think it will be lame if we do it in 30 years when several others have achieved this mantle. And there will be many others, but we need our own heroes. He's a product of all of us. All the buildings that you build, the policies you have, the programs that you have, the things you support. The presentation we just heard before, you know, is ongoing. He and those others who you may recognize are products of us. That's what we're about. So just conclude. I just want to plant the seed. I don't need an answer from you. You don't have to give me any answers, obviously, for anything. But I want to plant the seed, and I want to encourage you to consider someone who inspires me, someone that achieves those kind of levels. I think we're remiss to do nothing. Excellence must be acknowledged. Those who set the standard, show us the path, pave the way. We need to encourage them, acknowledge them, and recognize them. And show others that we acknowledge and recognize that kind of achievement, that it's the fabric of our community. Thank you for your time. I don't presume you necessarily have any questions, but if you do, I'm happy to.
Yeah, I don't presume, because we always have questions at this table. Thank you very much, Mr. Qualley. I really appreciate your presentation and the fact that you put so much thought into it. And I recognize that we are remiss in recognizing our local heroes, whether they be sports heroes or otherwise.
Yes.
Yeah, just a comment. Thank you very much for bringing that to our, I'm going to say, immediate attention. As Councillor Harper said, local heroes, and it just reminds me of a conversation I also had with Mr. Bob Clark, who of course was the general manager of the Grizzlies for years, in the idea of hockey, where he had a conversation with me as well with regards to excellence and achievement of highest levels of individuals that he was speaking of as well, and saying, you know, he also agreed that there needed to be some recognition for individuals, perhaps in a different way, but that talk is out there. And also, you're right, it's not specific to, it is sports that typically they do achieve. I've also had, and since we're not going to recognize names on behalf of Councillor Duryea, there are other areas such as the film and arts and culture industry, people that have achieved great success and at a high level. I really believe that Council and our administration will take the bull by the horns and sit down and have a serious and sincere discussion on this topic. So thank you so much for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you. I just, if I may, I think we need to tell the story of our successes.
Words right out of Bob
Thank you very much.
Just hang on. Does Council have any other questions? Councillor Overwater.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Qualley. That was very informative. Yes, we do have many, many young athletes that have come from the town of Olds and have achieved many high successes in their careers. We have young athletes that are internationally known all over the world for their wrestling, and that being a female. We have athletes internationally known all over for their success as female rugby players. So we do have a lot of athletes that come out of this community. So I think council has quite a discussion as to how to honor all of them. Thank you.
And as Mr. Qualley says, and Mayor Dolan says, we need to tell the story. And I think that's, Mr. Qualley has given us impetus to start that storytelling.
And if I just respond to Councillor O'Dwyer, I guess the overall recognition is important, and it's part of everything as athletes develop, as communities grow, etc. But I caution us to get bogged down in recognizing everybody, and I think, you know, I guess that becomes part of your criteria, that you set bars and you have to reach certain, but it's impossible to start, it's impossible to recognize everyone. And that's where I think we often get bogged down. Then it's easy to say, well, can't recognize everyone. We'll recognize no one.
Councillor Bearshaw.
Thank you, Al. So, just to clear things up, like, and I talked to you about this before, but I'm still not entirely sure. Like, when I went, there's two communities that I think have done quite a good job. Drumheller, to some extent, not quite as elaborate as Wetaskiwin has done. Wetaskiwin, I think, has done a tremendous job in their foyer of their arena and their sportsplex there, with pictures and stories of all types of athletes, wrestlers, basketball players, hockey players, rodeo stars, all that kind of thing. And I found it quite interesting to go down that, just a visitor to that community, and Drumheller as well, and look back at all the history and stuff, instead of maybe old dusty trophies from, that we have in our community. We do have the square footage on the wall. Now, I realize this is just planting the seed, but is that a vision of what you think? I mean, about you're thinking along the lines of, I mean, if I was to just think, as a plan, we have all that space in the sportsplex on the walls where we could do something very similar to what Wetaskiwin has done, or a combination, or maybe there's some other great ideas that people could think of where we could honor. Is that what you're thinking? Because you sort of started a lot down the lines of maybe naming buildings, but then I think you kind of went away from that. And I know that that's a fairly slippery slope, but could you clarify that, or if I'm on the wrong page as to what I'm saying?
Well, I remember when I was with the Alberta Sport Council, we brought Mike Barnett, who's a university classmate of mine at University of Calgary, and he became Wayne Gretzky's marketing manager. And the big message that he told us with the Alberta Sport Council was something you already know. Really be careful with naming buildings after people, because you forgo all this revenue down the road that, maybe 5 years later it could have been called the Penrose Saddle Dome or this or that, and you could have a lot of money coming in. So I think you have to be careful about naming buildings. I mean, I could see an auxiliary arena or a Zamboni or lots of suitable things. But, again, I've been very involved in all of my career in these kinds of things.
Olds Community TV, your go-to channel for news and information in Olds, Alberta.